Hey there, sweet friends. I hope you are well, and I am so happy to welcome you all to day one of our 12 Days of Christmas in July tutorial series. I've got 12 great projects and loads of crafty inspiration coming your way, so I sure do hope you plan to join me for the series. We always host a question of the day for our series, so make sure you listen throughout the video for that question and play along by answering in the comments. So let's just take a look inside, shall we? Now we have this beautiful folio tied up with a generous length of ribbon, and inside we have pockets with inserts, loads of details on all of these pages, and then we have additional inserts that come in from the top. So there is plenty of room on the inside for all of your pictures and journaling, so you can really document all of those memories of the holiday season. Now, if that sounds good to you, then stick around and we will make it together. We're going to be working with the Mittens and Mistletoe collection from Crate Paper today, and I do have a combination of the 12 by 12 collection sheets as well as the 6 by 8 paper pad. We're going to start by assembling the spine, and I have 4 pieces here of 65 pound weight cardstock, and they do measure 5 inches high by 2 1/8 wide. It's scored at 1 1 1/8, so we're going to have a little bit of space there in the spine to accommodate all of those paper layers that we want to add. So you see I've added my numbers here to keep these in order, and I am going to use my 2 glue combo, so that is the double-sided adhesive along with my Tombow, just to make sure that this is well secured. Then I'll just bring these together so that I have it straight and even across the bottom and sides. Give that a good press so you know you've got a good contact. Now we have 2 together, and I will just repeat those steps until we have joined all 4. So now I have all of these adhered, and I want to add a front and back cover. So I have 2 pieces of 65 pound weight cardstock. This is going to be 5 inches high by 12 inches wide and scored at 6. So what I want to do now is come in here and add that double-sided tape on the side. Bring in my Tombow, and then bring these together so that when I adhere them, it will sandwich that flap inside. So just line that up right along that score line. And now you can see I have added my double-sided tape to this side. Let's pull that backing off now. And then slowly and carefully fold that over until you have sandwiched your spine in between those layers. So you just want to repeat that process for the other side. Okay, so now we have our front and back cover on. We have 3 of these left to add our inside pages to. And for this, we're going to use that envelope that I picked up from Amazon. This is a 6 by 9 inch white mailer, and I am going to seal up this end. Then I'll bring in my guillotine cutter, and I want to cut one end off so that it is 5 inches. And this will become the bottom of the pocket. Then flip it over so that you have the opening on the right-hand side, and then cut off 2 inches. This is going to be the smaller pocket that is layered in front. You see how when we combine those, we'll have a back pocket and a front pocket. Here are the pieces that I've prepared. I'm just going to continue using my 2 glue combo. And then add these right on top, keeping it straight and even along the bottom and the sides. I have 2 additional layered pockets prepared for this project, so I'll just bring back our cover. Now what I want to do is add my double-sided tape here on the front of the flap, and I'll do that for all 3. I'll pull the backing from this front one. Add my tombow. And then that first pocket. So we're going to wind up sandwiching this flap between the layers of the pocket and the pattern paper that I'll add to the other side. So I'm just being careful to keep this on the side of where my score line is, remembering that we have 1/8 of an inch between those for accommodating the bulk of the paper that we want to add. So that's the first one. We'll just continue those steps until we get all 3 pages added. That creates our base. Now we can begin to add our pattern paper layers. So for the back piece, I want to add my pattern paper. I want to slide it into that pocket so that it has a nice finished look, but also it will have a nice smooth surface for when we want to add our inserts. So I have my pattern paper cut here to be 4 7/8 of an inch high by 5 7/8 of an inch wide. And I have added my adhesive only to the top so that it won't prevent me from being able to slide this in to that pocket. And so it is going to have the border from the base showing. I have a second piece cut for this side. Obviously I have my adhesive going all the way around. And I'll just center that on this page. So when we begin adding all of these paper layers, it does definitely increase how thick and sturdy this is going to be. So let's just continue those steps until we finish all of these pockets. For the last set of pages here, I don't have that envelope pocket. So both of my pieces of pattern paper are just going straight down directly onto the base. And you can see how nicely those layers really hide the flap from constructing the base. I'll go back through and add a paper layer for the front of the pockets. I just used the offcuts as I was working along so that I wouldn't waste any of this beautiful pattern paper. And so the pattern for the front of this pocket is 1 7/8 high by 5 7/8 wide. And that is going to cover up the flap that was on the envelope for the base. And that also helps to make that pocket very sturdy. So let's just flip through and repeat that process until we have these all covered. And so I just used a combination of the florals and the geometrics so that I could keep it from looking busy. And that helps all of these beautiful patterns not get too busy. Okay, so that is covered. Now, remember on our last page that we don't have that pocket. So what I want to do is take my paper and then I'm just going to add a tiny bit of my tombow around the bottom and then both of the sides, leaving that top open so that will be a pocket as well. So I'm just very carefully adding a little bit of that so that it won't squeeze out. You will want to let this pocket fully dry and set up before you add anything to the inside so that it won't become stuck in the tacky glue. And so I just have this working using the border that we created by building the base and then adding the first layer of pattern paper. So this is going to be a pocket for the back. Let's go ahead and flip back to the cover and add some details. So of course, because we have a pocket, we do want to add things to it. These inserts came from the cut apart sheet. And so some of them were from the 6x8 paper pad, and they had a little foiling on them, so that made them a little bit of extra detailed. So I'm just going to pick 2 and I'll pop those in there. There is room in here for some additional flat mementos and keepsakes, so you can load this up with your pictures and journaling. And then I am also going to come back in and utilize the additional details they had on those cut aparts. So there was a combination of images with some labels and some sentiment strips. So let's go ahead and add those. I'm just going to mix and match these so that they will be definite layering elements. And because I have plaid there, it will be easy to line that up. You saw that I had my adhesive only on the bottom portion, so I won't accidentally seal that pocket up. And then I also have that sentiment. Let's add that to the other side so we can create some balance there as well. Now it's going to do it for our first page. Moving on to the second page, I have my inserts here. These are going to be great for adding your pictures to. Some of them also have blank areas, so you can incorporate your journaling right onto that. For this page, the label did have a to and from, which didn't make a lot of sense to me for this type of album. So I am going to adhere that, and then I'll layer on a couple of the stamps that were included in the cut apart. So let's just center this and add that right on to the front. And then 3 of these little stamps, and I'm just going to kind of stack them in a cluster so that they will cover those words. I think this would be a great little album base for just about any collection. This will work great, especially if you have a lot of cut aparts included. So let's kind of cluster these at an angle so that we got a lot of coverage there, and they don't look like they're all just stacked up. This little chipmunk will be in the front because he has a scarf and a little gift. So that makes a nice cluster to hide that label. You can also write on that label as well. So more journaling for the memories that you're keeping in this album. Here's another tag. This one did have that notched edge on both sides, and I just decided to clip that off so that I could line it up right along the edge of my pattern paper. Here's the next set. More of those cut aparts right into there. This label does not have to and from, so we're not gonna worry about covering any of the front. This is just gonna go right in the center of our pocket there. And then this last sentiment for the other side. This is a good time for our question of the day. So let me know in the comments, what is your favorite content to watch during the holiday season? Now, for me, I really love the documenting the season projects. So that would be documenting December or December daily, or even for fall and Halloween. Although I am a failure at those projects, I do try to do those every year. But anyway, I just enjoy the process. So my favorite thing to watch is how people gather up all of those festive details that make them feel inspired, especially if it's in a rolling cart. I just love those. So let me know in the comments, what is your favorite thing to watch during the holiday season? I have this extra sentiment label. I thought it would be nice just to layer this up on top of that first cut apart. Okay, that's going to be the inside. Remember, our pockets have pages at the top as well, so we can incorporate some inserts there, and that really helps to stretch the amount of room that we have for our pictures and journaling. And so I'm going to just create some that have tab tops, and I want to alternate these. When I add them to the top, I want them to be staggered. That way they'll be easier to see. And I'm going to start with my pattern paper here. It's 6 inches high by 5 3/4 of an inch wide, and that will help it to slide in and out easily of that top pocket. Now, remember, I want to have this one here, so this one will be on this side. I have to flip that over to get the tab that side, but I will mention as I'm working along that my tab is going to be 2 3/4 of an inch. Then I'll come back in here with a straight edge and just clip the excess. You could easily do this also with your guillotine cutter. Rather than considering finishing the back with an additional pattern, I think if you left that white, it would be a great place to add more journaling to, or some additional pictures. So I would probably not cover the back of that, but that would be a design choice that you could make if you choose to make this project. So let's add these in here. These are going to stick up from the top quite a bit, and so this is going to extend the height of this project, and so that is nice. Now, I chose this pattern because it's going to match the layering on my front cover. So let's put the next one in, and that one will be staggered to the left. And then here's that last one. If you have a label maker, I think that would be a great way to add some detail to the top of those tags. So that's got that all finished. Now look how much nicer and bigger that's going to appear. Let's add some pretty pattern paper to the back cover. I think this might be my favorite from this whole collection. I just love the pink and the green together. It is so cheerful and festive. Got a little bit of my double-sided tape here just to hold in place my trim while I have my pattern papers to sandwich that between the layers. So this is just a beautiful pink checkerboard satin ribbon from Really Reasonable Ribbon. I'm just gonna add that so that I can tie a generous size bow. So let's just tap that into our tape, and that will hold it temporarily. Now we're going to add the same beautiful pattern to the front. I think this goes this way. And then remember that I mentioned this pattern here. I'm using another strip of that to act as a border along the bottom. I just cut that where it made sense on that stripe with the beautiful snowflakes in the middle. Got my doily here cut from crisp white cardstock. And I'm gonna add this slightly to the right so that I can have room for my flowers. Some pink cardstock as a border around the pattern paper from the collection. So this is another piece that was foiled, but I didn't want the white to blend in too much to that doily. So I did want to add that border. I also added foam tabs here. And so I just picked these up in the past from the Dollar Tree, but I found they're a better value at Hobby Lobby. And so I'm just gonna kind of focus my snowflakes here so that I have more of them showing when I add my additional layers. This is a bear and tree from one of the cut apart images, and I just fussy cut around that so that I could take advantage of the sentiment that was on the top. So let's add him here, making sure to keep that star within the border of that circle so it will be well supported. You might notice that it's not as much depth on those two layers. I added the scrapbook adhesive foam tabs that I picked up from a Really Reasonable Ribbon. So they are some dimension, but not quite as much as the ones from Hobby Lobby. And so I did fussy cut that image out from the same cut apart, and I just want to layer that on top here. And that will hide a little bit of that snow. We'll still see the little foot there, and then that will be a nice layered sentiment. So now it's time to bring in that flower arrangement that I mentioned, and I did show these in my haul video. I prepped quite a few flowers and foliage ahead of time just so that I could make this process a little bit easier. So I've got my flowers layered here with my die cuts. I added some netting and loopy twine bows. Now these are a very dimensional snowflake, and these came from the Dollar Tree, and they are meant to be ornaments, so I'm adhering them by hiding that hole in between the layers, but they are very chunky and very glittered. I don't know how well that comes across on camera, but this is a really nice, chunky, substantial flower arrangement now, and I'm going to add that here. Don't have room for a lot of extra things like my trims on the outside. That is okay. I will mention ahead of time, before I adhere this, that I added a double layer of my foam tab in the center just to support that area where it is not filled in by that chunky snowflake. So let's add some hot glue, and we'll add that here, being careful to keep all of those bits within the border and then also not covering our sentiment strip. So I've got a little bit of my twine here to clip, give it a haircut. I did flatten that out a little bit as I pressed it into place into that glue. So I'll just reshape those flowers. This is the Spellbinders Cinch and Go poinsettia. So that's really easy to fluff back up and reshape that. So that is going to be a lot of beautiful dimension. Now, of course, I do want to incorporate some charms, and I just picked some simple little snowflakes. I tied those on some string so that I could get these positioned exactly where I want. Just secure those strings into some hot glue, clip the excess, add a button to hide those cut strings, and just tie a little bow here on the side to keep everything nice and secure. You can come back in and decide how much extra ribbon you want to be on the tail. So I just want to even mine out, and I'll cut that at an angle so it won't fray. Last but not least, of course, I want to come in and add some sequins. Attach those with my Tombow. And that's going to be all for day one. Make sure you join me tomorrow for day 2. And if you enjoyed this tutorial, make sure to comment, like, and subscribe. You can find links in the description below. And I'm wishing you a happy and productive day. And I thank you so much for watching. Bye.